How's it going, everyone? This is Clark Hellscream, and today I'm going to be trying something a little bit new. I've actually never done a tier list before. This is my very first time making the account. Obviously, they've been very popular within the gaming scene as well as the Hearthstone scene, so I figured, you know, why not do something with our fishy friends, because a lot of people haven't been giving Murlocs love, and I've been playing a lot of meme Murloc decks, so why not give this a try? So let's jump right into it and rate us some Murlocs. Right off the top, we have the Amalgam, you know, the 1-mana 1/1. Doesn't really see play outside of the outside of Battlegrounds. It only has the Naga Witch that summons the Amalgam. So for that reason, it's not really that good. It saw play in maybe like one deck when Totem Shaman was really popular, but it's not the reason why it won by any means. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and just start this off by putting it in the C tier. Something else that I'll say is that we'll put all the Murlocs in a row first, and then we will organize them by, you know, how powerful they are in that tier. So we'll just, we'll fix that at the end. But for right now, let's just put them in their respective places. So up next, we have Grimskill Oracle. Give your other Murlocs +1 attack as a 1-mana 1/1. It's not really the reason why you win as Murloc decks, but it can be useful if you're like a newer player trying to make Murlocs good. However, it's not nearly as good as War Leader is, which is very obviously up next, which we will get into. But you know, since it's got an application and it's kind of like the Timberwolf for Murlocs, I kind of want to put it in the B tier. Since it does have applications that can be useful, I really like the idea of going for this in B tier because it has applications. Like, it has ways that it can be good. It's just not the greatest Murloc in order to give your other guys attack. Much like Murloc War Leader, who is automatically going into SS. This card is insane. It is the reason you play Murlocs. It is the reason why you win with Murlocs. And there's a lot of combos that are enabled because, you know, giving your board +2 attack is insane. They've also nerfed this card twice, if I remember correctly. Twice. It used to give your Murlocs +2/+2, then actually no, it was three different nerfs. Because at first it used to be +2/+2. Then they changed it to +2/+1. Then they changed it to where it's only your Murlocs, not all Murlocs. And then they just made it 2 attack because they realized that giving Murlocs any room for HP is pretty insane. So for that reason, it's going into SS because it's a great card. Up next is Nightmare Amalgam. Unlike the other Amalgam, this one actually saw play because, you know, it's a 3-mana 3/4. It saw play in Dragon decks. It saw play in Mech decks. I mean, it's any tribe. It just didn't really see that many tech inclusions in like Pirate decks and whatnot, or like Elemental decks. So I'm gonna make it an A tier for that reason. I feel like this card, like especially when paired with Ziliax, it was insane in the meta that it was available in. So for that reason, I feel like it's very comfortable at A because it has synergies and it just promotes good deck building if you were to make use of it. Up next is Fish Flinger, a 2-mana 3/2 Murloc that adds a random Murloc to each player's hand. So this card I actually think is really good. I think it's better than most people give it credit for, and I'm gonna give it for 2 reasons. I'm gonna put it in A tier though to give you guys an idea of why I think this card is good. This card is good for one of 2 reasons. If you're playing it on curve and you're just, you know, you play it, most likely you're playing up against a deck that isn't going to make use of Murlocs. Like, yeah, they could probably just, like, summon a Murloc against you, but more than likely, they're not really going to use that card unless they have no other options, or if they're, like, a slow deck and they happen to get, like, a 2-drop or something like that. So, there's a lot of situations where you give your opponent a Murloc and they don't do anything, while on the flip side, as the Murloc deck, getting another Murloc is always good. Like, you have the chance of getting, like, another Murloc War Leader, and Wild, you can get old Murkai, and for that reason, it definitely is an A tier. But a bigger reason is because later on in the game, you can actually use this for milling potential. I've actually done it before, where like I fought a Raza Priest, they had 9 cards in hand. I played this card, and then guess what got milled? It was Anduin. It was Anduin right off the top. So for that reason, I'm definitely putting it in A because recently this card has won me games, and when you actually think about it, its effect isn't that negative. It can be, but more times than not, it's not. Okay, so Primal Fin, this is the Murloc that pops out of the 0/3 totem, and I feel like I should put it in B because it actually saw play in Even Shaman back in the day, but like it wasn't the reason why you won, but it could steamroll games because there were cards like Stormbringer being played, so like any token that was on the field was automatically a threat. Any damage was also good for that aggro deck because they really wanted to kill you as fast as possible, so for that reason I'm going to go ahead and put it in B tier. Murloc Tidecaller, who summons who summons his scout. Wait, where's his little scout? There he is. Okay. So the scout is garbage, automatically. However, the Murloc Tidecaller I am putting in B tier. It's probably going to be lower on the B tier, but here's the main reason why. You're probably always going to play this in a Murloc deck, no matter what. Mainly because on turn 2, if you can get this out, then it gets you 2 bodies that are very, very impactful that your opponent sometimes has to clear, depending on the deck. And case in point, I was playing a Murloc Priest deck. You heard that correctly, Murloc Priest. And there was one game where I played Tidecaller on 1, I played this immediately following it, and then I played War Leader. If I remember correctly, that Priest had less than half of their HP by turn 3. So for that reason, I'm putting him at the B tier, because obviously it's not the greatest. It really isn't the greatest. But if unanswered, Murlocs can just steamroll games, and this is one reason why you can easily steamroll games in the early game. Murloc Raider, aka Billy. Billy's bad. You don't really want to play Billy. Billy doesn't do anything. He's just a vanilla 1-mana 2/1. And that's not good for Murloc decks. If you have a 1-mana 2/1, like Grimscale Chum, for example, this is going to be, it's kind of like on the either at the top of B or at the bottom of A, but only because this card saw play in Merlok Paladin back in the day. I actually did really well in a DreamHack tournament with the Merlok Paladin where I 3-0'd 2 people with it, I think. 2 or 3. Regardless, if I had the Chum into the Rockpool Hunter into a 3-drop, I was probably going to win that game more times than not. So for that reason, it definitely has to go in the B tier, because it can win games. It can just very easily win games by itself. Merlok Night. 4-mana 3/4. Inspire, summon a random Murloc. One of the only Inspire cards to really see play. I want to put this card in the B tier. Not the C tier, because I don't think that's giving it justice, and A tier feels like it's giving it a little bit too much credit. But Merlok Night was okay back in the day. It really doesn't see that much play anymore, because Inspire cards just really aren't the greatest. They don't have a lot, like, you would think with synergies it would work perfectly with the hero power, but the ability most of the time is just not that impressive to spend an additional 2 mana on. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the B tier, because when it was good, it was a 4-mana 3/4, so its body was nice, and if you got the hero power with it, then it was insane. Megafin. I feel like I have to put this guy at the top of B tier, but 5-mana 8/8. Fill your hand with random Murlocs. The only reason why he's going in B tier and not like anything above or below is because of the body. 5-mana 8/8, if you were able to get this out early, it could actually do some damage, but like most of the time with Murloc Shaman, Murloc Quest Shaman especially with Megafin, it had not a lot of ways to play the game aside from just play your Murlocs and hope that you win. So for that reason, I feel like I have to put it in B tier, but as a 5-mana 8/8, it's definitely impressive if you can get it in hand as soon as possible. Bluegill Sniper, 2-mana 2/1, deal 1 damage. What is this card even useful for? If it had Poisonous, it would be pretty OP, to say the least. It'd probably be like a 4-mana, 5-mana card if it could deal 1 damage and immediately kill something. But there's no way to give this thing Poisonous. There's not really a lot of, there's not a lot of applications for just dealing 1 damage in the early game unless you're fighting, like, another Murloc deck. So for that reason, I'm putting it in the garbage tier. Like, the only reason the Amalgam is better is because the Amalgam can be paired up with other things. But the Bluegill Sniper, like, why? Why do you even play it? Alright, so next up we got Mcgarrigle, if I pronounced that correctly. Probably didn't. I don't speak Murloc. But we have the Mcgarrigle Prime and the little guy. Starting off as a 2-mana 2/1, Divine Shield, shuffle the Prime into your deck. While with a Prime, 8 mana, I think it's a 4/4. I forget the stats, and I wish I had them, so I do apologize for that. But as an 8-mana card, you get to summon 4 random Murlocs with Divine Shield. That is definitely going in the S tier, 100%. They definitely have to be paired together, because one doesn't exist without the other. But this is an S tier because if you get this from Faceless Lackey, if you get this randomly from from Flinger, if you get this card, it's going to be decent. Like, it's not going to win you the game all the time, but one minion generating a whole board can be very, very useful in a lot of matchups. So, and the fact that they have Divine Shield is even better, right? So for that reason, they definitely have to go in S. They're not SS only because I don't feel like they actually are the reason why you would play a Murloc deck. It's definitely very good, but it's not why you would win. Corrupted Seer. 6-mana 2/3. Deal 2 damage to all non-Murlocs. Do I even need to talk about this card? Do I even need to talk about this card, chat? It's garbage. 100%. It's just garbage. I've never seen... I maybe see this card get value like once. And even then, like 2 damage for 6 mana. Holy Nova, Consecration, all of those are 4 mana. So you essentially have a 4 mana ability with a 2 mana 2/3. So no, it's bad. It's randomly, whenever you get it randomly, it's bad. It costs too much mana, it's bad. Its stats are bad. If you evolve into it, it's bad. It's garbage. It's just garbage. Now on the other side of the fence, complete 180 actually. 5 mana 2/4. Finja the Flying Star has stealth, and when you kill a minion, it summons 2 Murlocs from your deck. I have had so much fun with this Murloc, and personally, it is my favorite. It is my baby, and I would craft it golden if I felt like it wasn't irresponsible to use my dust that way. However, Finja is still insane because it enables so many combos. It thins out your deck as an aggro deck, which most of the time you really, really want. And I play Tiny Fin Paladin almost religiously, so Finja really puts that together. So we're definitely putting him in the SS tier. Cold Seer, 3 mana 2/3, give your other Murlocs +2 attack. I'm going to put this in the A tier. And the reason why I'm putting this in the A tier is because it's not S, definitely, and it's not B. Giving your Murlocs HP can actually be very, very beneficial in order to close out some games, and if you play this on turn 3, it's fantastic. However, if your Murlocs get killed, this card slowly becomes a detriment, and a 3 mana 2/3 really can't do that much, and it doesn't buff itself either. So it's one of those cards where it's a win more card. If you're ahead on the board, you can increase your chances of for sure winning the game. So it has to be an A tier card for that reason, because it can win a lot of the time if you're already ahead on the board, and it can cement your victory. Bluegill Warrior, 2 mana 2/1 with charge. S tier, because who hasn't been killed by this guy? Who hasn't been killed by this guy with like 10 attack or something like that? Charge in Murlocs wins games, and that's the reason why we play it. It wins games. Why wouldn't we play a card that wins games? Why wouldn't a card why wouldn't a card that wins games not be an SS? Try saying that twice as fast. A lot of negatives. Oh god, and speaking of negatives, 3 mana 2/2, everyone's favorite Murloc, or at least I would say this is probably Hearthstone's favorite Murloc, Cold Light Oracle. This card is going in S, 100%. And the reason why it's going in S is because it's one of the only Hall of Fame Murlocs aside from Old Murkai. So, you know, milling potential, drawing from your own deck for combo purposes. This is a very, very good card. I don't think I really need to talk much about it because everyone in the Hearthstone community knows that most likely if you're hearing a Murgle sound, it's probably this guy coming down. And Rogue can play like so many of these guys. So SS, 100%. Next up is Merlok Tiny Fin. He's SS. And the only reason why he's SS is because look at that smile. Look at how cute he is. Realistically, the only reason why I feel like this card would be anything, like, if it was in any other tier, it would definitely be garbage. But it's so cute that I have to put it in the SS tier. And if anybody wants to at me, go ahead. I will defend this card. I will defend this list until I die. Next up is the Ghost Light Angler, 2 mana 2/2 Echo Shaman card. There's really only one way that I've seen this card get any sort of value, and that was with like Underbelly Angler, if you got it randomly. Other than that, this card really didn't have a lot of application, so I feel like for that reason I have to put it in the C tier. It's not necessarily garbage, but it does have a way it can work. Plus, you know, it could be your turn 2 play, or it can be like turn 8 summon 4 Murlocs. I'm not saying that's what you want to do by turn 8, but you know, it's a possibility. You can do something. Maybe you can put Spirit of the Murloc on top of them and then like Bloodlust them down. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it works, but the fact that it's possible means that it's not garbage. Dreadscale Knight, 1 mana 1/1 with Lifesteal. This card is on the cusp of C tier being garbage, because I've never really seen this card get played. So I feel like it should just be garbage, because Lifesteal is not that important in Murloc decks. If you play this on turn 1, it's just a 1/1 that really doesn't do anything because you're at full health. So unless you're buffing it, it's not really that good. Oh man, next up we got a lot of other people's favorite Murloc. Merlok Tidecaller as the 1 mana 1/2. Whenever you summon another Murloc, gain +1 attack. Some people would probably automatically put this in the S tier, or the SS tier, but I'm just going to put it in the regular S tier. The only reason why it's not SS is because this card needs other resources to fodder out with it, I feel like. So, you know, if you play this on turn 1, hell yeah. Do you have another Murloc, though, that you can play turn 2? You don't? Yikes. And that yikes is the reason why it can't be SS. Like, I don't get a yikes any single time that I see Merlok Tiny Fin. But if this guy just gets played and then I don't have anything to fodder out with it, it just gets traded, and then suddenly my most powerful card is just dead. Or most powerful turn 1 play. But it's still S because you want this card in your mulligan almost every single game if you're playing a Murloc deck. So 100% you go with this. Hydrologist, 2 mana 2/2, Battlecry, discover a secret. I'm only putting this card at an A tier, and I will tell you the reason why, okay? This is not because I really like this card or anything. The reason why I'm putting this at A tier is because it literally enabled my combo decks back in the day with, like, Exodia Paladin. So, like, before this card was printed, we had Burglar Bully, or we had Burgle Bully, where if your opponent played a spell, you would get a coin. That'd be the only way you could realistically do the Beardo OTK with Death Knight Uther in order to win the game. But when this card was printed, all I needed was to run 2 of these and like a 1-mana spell in my deck, and then play Emperor in order to get the discount. And then suddenly, it's not up to my opponent if I have coins anymore. So for that reason, I'm putting it in the A tier. And there's also the reason where back in the day with Murloc Paladin, 2 years ago, 2018, I think it was, this card still saw play. And if you got random secrets like Avenge or... not Avenge. If you got cards like Redemption, Noble Sack, it was really useful. I think there's also the card that gave your minions Divine Shield if you attacked into it as well in that meta. But in any case, random secrets were good in that reason, so I feel like this card is an A. Anything else feels like too much or not giving it enough respect, because I really made use of this card. Oh god, and speaking of cards I've been making use of, I'm still making use of, actually. Old Murkeye. This guy's S. Like, this guy is 100% SS tier. Like, it's the finisher. He got rotated out for a reason because they didn't want Murloc decks. Like, Blizzard didn't want Murloc decks to absolutely dominate every single meta. So for that reason, he definitely has to go into the SS tier because, you know, when you get Hall of Famed, that really talks about your power level and design. Next up is Mermie, the 1-mana 1/1 with Reborn, one of the only Reborn Murlocs. No, it is the only Reborn Murloc. I do apologize. But it's not really the greatest. In Rogue, it's pretty good because, you know, if you get it with Pharaoh Cat and you get, like, Edwin plays, that's pretty awesome. Like, Reborn Paladin isn't even a thing, so we're not even going to go down that route. Other than that, like, the only real reason to play this on, like, you can play this on turn 1, maybe rock pool it if you're lucky enough. But, like, it really doesn't have that many other places to where it's good. So I feel like I have to, like, it's either bottom of B or C. So I feel like I'm just going to put in C because there's only, like, one way that it gets used in Standard, at least. And it's not even in a Murloc deck. It's just in a deck that finds random Reborn minions. Next up is the 4-mana 4/4 Felfin Navigator. Battlecry, give your Murlocs +1/+1. This card is interesting, but at the same time, I still think it's kind of bad. Because by turn 4, you're already, like, you probably already know if you're going to win the game or not, or if you're going to have a good chance of losing. So if you play this on turn 4 and buff up your Murloc board, that's okay. But what other situations is this card good at? If you tempo it out as a 4/4, it's kind of weak, but it's one of the biggest minions that you have. So when you play it in conjunction with other minions, it's pretty good. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and put it at the bottom B tier. We'll go ahead and organize this later. But, like, the only reason why this isn't C tier is because as a 4/4, it's got a decent body, and it does have ways of high rolling. However, turn 4 for Murlocs is very, very detrimental to where you either lost your board and you're trying to rebuild it, or you already have the board and you're just trying to stick it. So I feel like bottom of B is fair. C is a little mean, so I feel like B is comfortable. Henge Clan, Burglar, or Murloc, Scout, whatever this is, it's garbage because it comes out of the Hogsteed, which people don't really play. I see it in Standard every now and again, but it's like 1 out of 1,000 games. It's not a card you want to play, but it's just really a token minion, so I just felt like I wanted to put all the Murlocs in here, but it's garbage. All right, Bilefin Tide Hunter. The 2-mana 2/1 Battlecry, summon a 1/1 Ooze with Taunt. This card is actually going to go into B tier, and for one reason and for one reason only. I don't think it's better than Metafin, though. When Quest Rogue was a thing, back before it was nerfed, this card was absolutely bonkers. Because getting 4/4 taunts on top of having another 4/4 minion, like this was just 2 mana, get 2/4 or 2 5/5s. 2 4/4s, 2 5/5s. I forgot that the quest actually started at 5/5s. But yeah, getting a 5/5 taunt out of this, shadow stepping it, getting another 5/5 taunt, pretty good. Pretty good. For that, it goes in B tier. But it was literally in no other Murloc deck. So that's the whole reason why it's not that good. If it wasn't in Rogue, it would just be garbage. It'd be in garbage. But since Quest Rogue was the thing, it has to be in B tier because it literally did so much for the deck. Primal Fin Champion. 2 mana, 1/2. Return any spells that you casted on this card after it dies. What do you want me to say? This card kind of saw play in very, very niche situations. Like if you're playing like Vorax or something like that. And if you're playing Vorax, you're clearly playing for memes. But like this card just, it's not that good because in Merlok Paladin, you don't really have a lot of buffs. You don't really want to buff up. Like you don't want to play cards like Blessing of Kings or anything like that. Because it's too slow. It's way too slow. And if your opponent ends up killing that one minion that you buffed, then it's still bad. Getting the card back in your hand doesn't really make a difference. So for that reason, it's garbage. It never sees play. Its ability is very niche and not even really what Paladin wants to do, even though they buff cards, so it's bad. 2 mana, 3/2, Ferocious Felfin. Battle Cry, if you have attacked this turn, give this minion +1 attack and rush. This card really isn't that good in Demon Hunter. However, I did have a video series that I tried where I went 100% win rate with Murloc, Demon Hunter, and Wild. It was a lot of fun, to say the least. But this card really didn't make the deck feel any more insane. Even though this is one of your only rush cards, it came in use every now and again. So in Murloc decks, it's not that good. And in regular Demon Hunter, you have plenty of other ways of being proactive with rush minions or just using your face. So for that reason, I want to put it in the bottom of B tier. Just because, like, the fact that it has rush makes it valuable. But other than that, like, what else does the card have going for it? Not really a lot. I'm very, very tempted to put it in C tier, but I feel like B tier is effective only because of rush. Rush is just too good of a mechanic. Imprisoned Sungill, 1 mana, 2/1. Battle Cry, stay dormant for 2 turns. When it awakens, summon 2 1/1s. This card only is good in like pure Paladin, I would say, and even then, like you want to play it on like turn 1. If you play it in Murloc Paladin, it's okay, but like as a Murloc deck, you want to do a lot more. The only reason why this card would even be good to play, and to like maybe buff up your minions and to play like a War Leader, like you could do something like that, but it's still not the greatest. So for that reason, I'm gonna have to put it in. I want to put it in the bottom of B, but like C tier just seems to be where it should go because it's just not that good. It really isn't. I really don't think that this card is that good. Primal Fin Lookout, 3 mana, 3/2. Battle Cry, if you have a Murloc on the field, discover another one. I almost want to put this in garbage, but I'm putting it in C tier because every now and again it could be good. In standard, in Battlegrounds, obviously this card is nuts if you have a Murloc comp. But in standard and in wild, if you're playing a Murloc deck and you're trying to find more resources and you're not killing your opponent, you're probably going to lose the game. Like, you need to kill your opponent like as soon as you physically can. So for that reason, I feel like it needs to be C tier because you really don't want to run it in your deck. If you happen to find it, then cool. And if you do run it in your deck, then yay. But it's not the reason why you win. I really don't think that it should be a card that you want to put in your Murloc deck if you're trying to win in the early game. Alright, next up is Burlock. 2 mana, 2/2, freeze an enemy. Pretty good card. However, Glacial Shard exists. Glacial Shard exists. It's neutral too. So, I'm sorry, but you're going in there. Like, if you're playing like Ice Fishing or something like that, to try and fish this out of your deck, pun intended, then maybe. But who wants to play Freeze Shaman and who wants to play Ice Fishing? Raise your hand if you want to do that. Am I the only one? Yeah, I thought so. 2 mana 3/2 Puddle Stomper. It's just a vanilla Murloc. It's C tier because it's a Bloodfin Raptor for Murlocs. Do I really need to say anything else about it? Like, it's okay, but it's still not that good. Rockpool Hunter. This card is S. 100% S. 2 mana 2/3. Give another Murloc +1/+1. When you had the 1 mana 2 mana curve with Murloc decks back in the day, people wanted to concede immediately, dude. Immediately. In the tournament, in DreamHack Denver, when I played Murloc, Murloc Paladin, if I had that 1-2 curve, I often won the game, and I literally 3-0'd 2 people with this deck in the tournament. So Rockpool Hunter really enabled Murloc decks because there weren't like a lot of really good turn 2 plays, but now suddenly you have a 2 mana 2/3 River Croc stats, amazing, with a really good ability to where if you were on the board on turn 1, it was insane. Plus, coining it out on turn 3 with a 1-drop, also insane. So S tier, without even question. Got the Murloc Starfish or Stargill, I don't even know. It's the send in the finishers or whatever finishers card for Murlocs. But like at the same time, like this card actually, like these tokens got played with every fin is awesome. And I feel like because of that, it should at least be a C tier because it can enable things technically. But it's still not the greatest. Like Murloc Shaman with every fin is awesome is not how we win. Scargill, your Murloc costs 1 mana. It's a 4 mana 4/4 for Shamans, and it's a legendary. I don't want to say this card is garbage, but it's very bad. The only way this card was good is if you got it randomly out of Underbelly Angler. So I feel like for that reason we can maybe put it in like the C tier. But like you really didn't hard run Scargill in your deck. Because like what's really the point? What's really the point of putting Scargill in your deck like that? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Okay. If you don't know what this card is, don't worry about it because it's absolutely giga trash. It's I think it's a 4 mana 4/2. It's Sea Devil Stinger. Battlecry, the next Murloc you play will cost HP instead of mana. Never saw this card get play. I'm pretty sure this card has like a 0% play rate in terms of like people actually running it in their deck. So no, this card is bad and we're getting rid of it. It's garbage. Throw it in the garbage can. Speaking of another garbage card, out of here. One of the only Murlocs with Overload that isn't good, by the way. The only Murloc with Overload that isn't good. Whenever a friendly Murloc dies, draw a card. I think it's a 4 mana 2/5. No, it's bad. Another really bad Murloc. All right. Okay, so next up we have the Vial Fin Inquisitor along with the little silver hand. I'm gonna put the silver hand in the same place as the Tiny Fin because look at how cute he is. I really love Paladin, so that's the main reason why that's going up there. But Vial Fin Inquisitor, I would say, is maybe top of B tier, if not lower A tier. And the only reason why was because when this card was first printed back in the meta, back in oh god, Knights of Frozen Throne or whatever, or like whatever meta had Merlok Paladin back in the day, this card was actually pretty decent because it would make your hero power give you Murlocs, and suddenly like those Murlocs became very threatening. Like you still had Megasaur in that meta. So if you were able to just get a full board of 1/1s and give them poisonous, like that was a threat. Suddenly your hero powers become threats every single turn. So I don't want to put it in A, even though you would play this on turn 1 if you had the option, but you really don't see it get played anymore. So that's why I have to put it at B because its power level is kind of weak. But back in the day, that card was pretty good to say the least. Sir Finley Moulton. I want to put it in SS tier. But I feel like S tier is more appropriate. And the main reason why it's not SS tier is because you always don't get a good hero power out of it. It's a really good turn 1, so if you play this into Rockpool, hell yeah. But you could also get yourself the Hunter hero power, which is insane if you're playing an aggro deck. So Finley absolutely has to be an S tier because you'll play this card in a non-Murloc deck if you really want to. It doesn't have to be in a Murloc deck. But if it is in a Murloc deck, it can go the distance. And it can give you a hero power that makes you feel more comfortable going face. However, the next version of Finley, Sir Finley of the Sands, if your deck has no duplicates, discover an upgraded hero power. How the mighty have fallen. I have to put this card in C tier. Highlander Paladin is interesting, and like I almost want to put it in the bottom of B tier because it can have applications in the future. But Highlander Paladin right now is just so, I don't want to say fickle, but it's very inconsistent. It's extremely inconsistent, actually. And so, like, having this upgraded hero power really doesn't do that much for you. So, I feel like it has to just be a C tier because you really don't even want to play this card in your deck. And if you're playing Highlander, like, it's one of the underwhelming Highlander cards. If you don't draw it on turn 2, it really doesn't do too much for you. Next up is Skyfin, 5 mana, 4/4. If you're, 5 mana, 3/3. I'm sorry. Battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, summon 2 random Murlocs. This also has to be C tier. I feel like it's just really underwhelming. Like it's just extremely underwhelming. It really is. You need to have a dragon in a Murloc deck unless you're playing Menagerie. That's pretty good. Like, I kind of had some fun playing this in, like, my Murloc Raza Priest that I made, but that's only because I ran Dragon Queen and other Highlander cards, so it made sense to play that in the deck. But it doesn't win games, and most of the time, if you're trying to play this on turn 5, you don't have the dragon, because you're playing a Murloc deck. If you get it randomly from a Murloc, then it doesn't do that good, so it's C tier. Sludge Slurper, it used to be a 1 mana 2/1, then became a 1 mana 1/1, and is now a 1 mana 2/1 again. Gives yourself a random lackey. Lackeys are insane, so we make it an S tier. The only thing that prevents it from being SS is the fact that Murloc Shaman itself is not the greatest. However, it definitely needs to be at the higher end of S tier because lackeys are absolutely insane. Like, they get you out of so many situations. We don't really need to talk too much about it because we all know lackeys. At least we should if we play Hearthstone. So this should go with this guy right here, and luckily that does do this. All right, Merlok Tiny Fin. A lot of people know this card. It's 4 mana 3/2. Draw 2 Murlocs from your deck. It really only sees play in Mill Rogue and Wild. So for that reason, it just has to be C tier. Like, in other Murloc decks, it's not really the greatest. Like, card draw is okay, but most of the time when you're playing your turn 4 as just a 3/2 to try and gain tempo back, you're already losing your tempo. So for that reason, I really feel like it has to be in C tier because it just only has one real application, and the other application that people try to use it for is not as good. Tasty Flyfish. Again, with the dragon synergy, trying to make this Menagerie thing more likely. 2 mana 2/2. Death Rattle. When it dies, give a random dragon +2/+2. I want to say that it's garbage. Because, like, it's just not a lot of cards to where you can get a lot of value out of it. Like, you get a 2/2, that's nice. That's pretty much the main reason why you would play it. And if you get it randomly, you're playing it for the 2/2, not for the buff. So, unfortunately, it has to be C tier. Toxfin is interesting. Because Poisonous is amazing, right? Poisonous is absolutely, like, amazing. I can't think of another adjective because it's just amazing. It's awesome. It literally wins a lot of the time. Like, if you can have Megasaur on this list, it would definitely be an S tier because Megasaur can do so much. But Poisonous just by itself and on top of a Murloc is kind of hard to judge. So for that reason, I'm going to put it on the top of B because it has a very, very powerful effect. This card was sometimes run as a tech. I don't think you ran 2 of it because it got a little clunky in that case. But if you ran 1 of them and you were able to top deck it in a clutch situation, it just won games. And now the last Murloc, Underbelly Angler. Whenever you play a Murloc, give yourself another Murloc in hand. I almost want to put this in SS, but the only thing that's preventing me is the fact that Murloc Shaman isn't the greatest. So I'm going to put it in regular S because all of these, except for these two, like all of these win games. Like 100% win games. These guys can win games, but need some additional help in order to get there. These guys can help you with your game plan and can kind of help the rest of these Murlocs, but like kind of need some additional support. These Murlocs are interesting and they have like ways that are good, but more times than not, they're like kind of bad. These ones have very, very specific situations to where you could play them, but like more times than not, they're just dead cards, and then these ones are just dead cards. So here's the tier list. Let me go ahead and see how we order these. Murloc War Leaders. I feel like Old Murkai. Okay, you know what? Cold Oracle's going to be first, followed by Finja, followed by Old Murkai, followed by War Leader, followed by by Bluegill, and then the cute guys. So this is just really, really insane because it just wins games. This guy, you know, pulls things from your deck. This deals damage. This gives you damage. This deals damage. Dealing damage is how we win. For these guys, these are all resource generation cards. I feel like for curve purposes, you really want these two, so they would go ahead of S tier, followed by the Lackey, followed by these guys. And the only reason why these guys are lower S is because they're not as consistent for Murloc decks as the rest of them. But they're still really good to the point where you have to put them in S tier because their abilities are so powerful. A tier, I feel like this is pretty accurate, but the Cold Light Seer should probably be the top of A, only because when it works, it's insane. And I'll put Hydrologist at lower A because a lot of people probably won't like the fact that it's up here. B tier, so the Chum probably has to be somewhat on the top, but not nearly at top. Followed by the cards I would see play in Merlok Paladin. The rest of these are kind of underwhelming. This guy's definitely the worst of B, but the only reason why he's up here is because of the totem. Let's see here. This looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. The only reason why this guy's ahead of this is because of curve. This guy's actually not that good though, so we'll go ahead and put him right here. Yeah, this seems right here. Okay. Now this is probably where the rating really doesn't matter anymore. But let's see here. Which one's the worst? Puddle Stomper's probably one of the worst, even though like on curve it's pretty decent. Scargill is actually the worst. Scargill is 100% the worst. Mermie can find ways of being useful. I guess this goes higher up on the C tier because when you do get value out of it, it's pretty good. Finley can stay right here though under this because there's a lot of situations where Finley doesn't get value. Skyfin, we already talked about this. It's not really the greatest because there's not a lot of synergies, so I feel like because of that we have to put it a little bit lower. I could put Tasty Fin a little bit higher, I guess, because it does have more options of being viable than the rest of these cards. Okay, I think I like this order a little bit. We'll go ahead and move Scargill though, just because it's a 4/4. We'll put it right here. This seems a little bit fair. All right, and the garbage literally doesn't matter how they're ordered, but we'll go ahead and order them. These two are just absolute garbage. I'm putting them at the bottom because I've never seen them see play along with this guy. Billy's pretty bad. Okay, so I guess we do it this way. The damage is the only thing that's even good here, but the only reason why I feel like this is better is because there's more likely of a chance that this card can actually get value. And there you have it. That is the Murloc tier list. If you have any opinions that you really want to let me know, just go ahead and drop some comments below, and I will get to all the comments as I can. But if you guys like this video, you know, give it a like. You know, maybe swing by the Twitch channel when I'm live and let me know what you think about it. I'll put out more of these videos if you guys liked it, and we'll just see what happens. But I really liked being able to put this video together. Thanks to everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.